Hello all. Welcome to session 41 of the PySpark series. So from this session, we have got little improvement in our recording. We'll be having the video on so that we can have good interaction on it, okay, while we are learning the concepts in PySpark, okay. Now from session 41, basically we were trying to understand how to handle dates in PySpark, okay. So the first scenario that we are taking is handling the dates when we are reading the data frame using Python list, okay. So very simple problem statement I have added here. It is asking me to filter all the records where date is greater than 31st of December 1994. Okay. um, I have two Python lists, okay, sample Python lists. The columns are basically the name and date of birth, okay. The name basically is a string, okay, and date of birth. If I want to filter, if I want to apply filter condition, the date should be it should have data type as date, okay. So in first Python list, I have the date in the format yyymm-dd, okay. And in second Python list, I have date in the format, let's say dd-mm-yy, okay. And for both the Python lists, I want to apply this condition, okay. So basically, first start is what we have to do is we have to convert both these Python lists to a data frame, okay. Let's start doing that. So the basic imports, you all are aware what all basic imports we need to create a data frame from Python list. We'll have to create a schema first, okay. Now to create a schema first, we will need all types to be imported, okay. So from pyspark.sql.types import star, okay. And going ahead in the code, we will need few functions also, okay. You all know we import functions as f, okay. From pyspark.sql import functions as f, okay. Let's continue these imports, okay. Now I have got first Python list, for example sample data 1, okay. Let me run this. What I have to do, I have to create the schema now, okay. So by now you all know how to create the schema using StructType approach, okay. What I'll do, I'll start creating the schema, okay. StructType, okay. I have two fields here. So struct field name, name is what? String type. Okay, name is string type. And next field, it is date of birth, date of birth, which is what? Date type. Okay, I want this as a date type because if I want to filter this, okay, based on a date, the data type of this column should be date, right? So let me put it as date type. Let me run this. Schema creation is complete, okay. Now let's create a data frame, okay. Let me name this data frame as sample df1. While using Python list, how to create a data frame, you all know spark dot create data frame, right? The first parameter I have to pass is data sample df1 and then sample schema, right? Let me run this. Okay, what it is saying, sample df1 is not defined. Oh, sorry, this is sample data 1. It is not df1, it should be a data, right? So the first learning for us here is while creating a data frame using Python list, the first parameter we are passing is the data parameter, second parameter is the schema parameter, right? Now next error, the field date of birth, date type cannot accept object in type class string, okay. So what it is saying is this date type, this date type data type is not able to accept this string object. That is what it is saying, okay. Okay. This is the first list, okay, first data we have, which is in the format yyymm-dd. See, it has not given any error for these names. It has not given any error for Ganesh and Akshay, okay. It has started giving error for this date, okay. So this string is fine. This string, it is able to accept this string, okay, fine. Now, what let's do one thing. Maybe let's take the second list also. Okay. And let's see if it is reading this type of date. Okay. If it is reading the DDMMYY date format. Okay. Let's see. Let me create that data. Okay. So data is ready. Now what I'll do, I'll just create sample df2. Sample df2 equals to spark dot create data frame sample data 2, okay, and sample schema, right? Let's see if it is able to take the ddmmyy, but it is not. Okay, so it is not able to accept basically the string object. This is string object, okay, and we are trying to read that string object as date type. Okay, that is the problem. So now here what we can do, the first way how we can read the dates in PySpark is, what we have to do, we have to read this date as string and then convert that to date data type. Okay, so let's do that. Let me change the schema that we are working on. So what I'll do, uh just a second, sample schema 1, what I'll do, struct type, okay, and struct field. Okay, so what is the name of the field? Name, it is string type. Okay, name is string type. And second field, date of birth, date of birth. Okay, date of birth, I'm trying to read it as string now, that is fine. Okay, let me read it as string. Okay, now sample schema 1, what it is saying, string type. Okay, type, it should be type, fine. Okay, this, now what we are trying to do, we are trying to read this data as string. Okay, so let me create sample df1 again, or let me create sample df3. Okay, let me not create sample df1. Spark dot create data frame. I have to create the data frame from sample data 1 and sample schema 1, right? In sample schema 1, we are reading the data as string. Okay, fine. So this we have read it as string. Let me show you the data type, okay, of each column. Sample df3 dot print schema, right? Sample df3 dot print schema. So data type of both the columns is string. Okay, but if I want to achieve this result, okay, what I have to do is I have to convert this string to date, right? And I think somewhere in our previous videos we have seen that. Okay, but let me explain you again what I'll do. Sample df2, okay, it's okay. Sample df2, sample df3 we have created, so let me take sample df3. Okay, sample df3 dot what, with column, because we have to change the data type of this column, so that's why with column. With column, you all know, we use with column when we have to create a new column or we have to update the existing column. Okay, updating the existing column means we have to update some values in the column or you have to change some data type of that column. Okay, so let me do this, date of birth. Okay, and what I have to do, I have to change that to date. Okay, f dot to date will convert this string to date. Okay, but here I'll have to pass two parameters. Two parameters is, first parameter is the column which I want to update. So column is what, date of birth. And what is the date format here? In first one, it is yyymm-dd. Okay, so what I have to pass, yyyy-mm-dd, right? Let me create sample df3. Okay, this is successful. Now if I display sample df3, let me see if it is displaying correctly. Sample df3 dot display. Okay, just observe what it has done. So sample df3, it has created the date of birth, okay, in the format yyyMMDB. That is expected. So here we have the list in the format yyyMMDD. Okay, this data frame has the date in the format yyyMMDD. And if I print the schema sample df3 dot print schema, okay, let's see now. It should give the date of birth as date type. Okay, if you see, it is date, right? So first, like, while reading the first data frame, we are successful in converting this string to a date type. Okay, now the question remains is like, is it that, for example, I'm converting yyyMMDD string to a date type, it is reading as yyyMMDD. Now if I convert this, let's say ddmmyy, will Spark still give me the output in ddmmyy? Let's understand. So it is sample df2, sample data 2 we have in ddmmyy format. Okay, let me create sample df4. Okay, so what I can do, spark dot, I'll read this as string first. Okay, so I have sample data 2 and I'll use sample schema 1, because in sample schema 1 we have read this data as string. Okay, and now we will convert that to date. Okay, with column, what is the column I want to update is date of birth. Okay, f dot to date, f dot to date, the column name is date of birth, date of birth. Okay, and the second parameter, what is the date format here? It is ddmmyy. Okay, so what I'll do, ddmmyy. Okay, uh while converting string to a date, please remember this you have to give in capital. If you give it in small, it will not be able to convert, it will not be able to understand. Okay, just remember that. Now sample df4, let me display sample df4, sample df4 dot display. Okay, so basically here, in my sample, in my first data sample, my date was in format yyyMMDD. Spark gave me yyyMMDD. Here my date is in format ddmmyy. Let's see what Spark will give. Okay, sample df4 dot display. Okay, if you see carefully, it has again given yyyMMDD format. Okay, the reason behind this is Spark, Apache Spark by default gives all the dates in yyyMMDD format. Okay, then basically Spark understands this yyyMMDD format. Okay, by default. Okay, that's why all the dates are in the format yyyMMDD. Okay, now coming to our problem statement. Now we'll be able to filter all the records where date is greater than 31st 12 1994. So this I have to, again, how I can do it is, for example, let me create sample df5. Okay, sample df5 equals to sample df4 dot filter. Okay, now here we have two options, filter and where. We have already seen which is the performance efficient. Not much difference between filter and where, but filter is little more performance efficient. Okay, so what I have to do, f dot call, okay, date of birth, okay, greater than f dot the constant. Okay, flit is to assign a constant. So what is that constant? 1994 1231. Let's see. Okay, it has failed. What it is saying, a function or parameter with the name date of birth. Oh, it is date of birth. I always mess up the spelling of birth. Okay. uh this is complete. Okay, sample df5. Okay, what it is doing, it is the second, I would say, data sample. This data frame we have created is from this second data sample. So what we have done, we have filtered all the records where date is greater than 1994 December. So it should give this only this record. Okay, let's see. Sample df5 dot display. Sample df5 dot display. Okay, let me see the output. Only one record, right? This is the expected output. Okay, so what we have seen is, the date, we need to read it as string first, and convert to convert to date data type. Okay, and how to do that? We use f dot to date transformation. Okay, and Spark by default understands all the dates or gives all the dates in yyymmdd format. Okay, we have seen in two cases, though our data is in ddmmyy format, while giving the output, Spark has given the results in yyymmdd format. Okay, and this basically, this is the extra parameter that we are supplying, so that Spark understands what format my date is in my data, and then internally it will convert that format to yyymmdd, the format which Spark understands. Okay, fine. So this is, I think this is the start where we have started working with dates in PySpark. Generally, this create data frame is used for testing purposes. Okay, it is not much used. Okay, when we work in live project, but this reading as a string and f dot to date, it is mostly used. Okay, when we work in live projects, right? Fine. That's everything for this session. If you feel this is useful, then please share this. Please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, if you have any feedbacks for me, if you want any improvements or anything like that, do share me in comment section. Okay, thank you so much for all your, I would say, support for this channel.